Hey everybody, Chris Lyon here with the Film Prize. I am giving you guys another fantastic interview here of a top 20 filmmaker for the Louisiana Film Prize 2022. I have with me today Stephen Joshua Martinez, who is the director of Notes on the War. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today, and yeah, say hello to everybody.
Thanks for having me. I got stuck in the rain, so that's what I'm doing out here. Is at a
Well,
restaurant. We're just here in Florida. All of a sudden, some kind of storm kicked up in the Atlantic, and here I am.
that's Florida weather for you. We have our fair share of strange weather here in Louisiana too, so you'll feel right at home when you come
Yeah,
to the festival this
we
October.
experienced that while shooting, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, I wondered if you might start off by giving our viewers a little information about your film. What's it about, and how did you come up with this idea?
Well, Notes on the War, it was an idea that came to fruition. It was a collaboration between Anthony Hoff, Claudio Farias, the cinematographer, and I, but basically the team of the film. Um, I realized that we needed to work with what resources that we had. Hoff had been working at a chicken farm at the time. I was like, this is about the South, this is about Louisiana. I thought that the perfect character would be a retired blues guitarist who now runs a chicken farm, and Hoff playing the character who is essentially being employed by this man. From there, we added a lot of different elements. Really, more than anything, I wanted to make it something that was dramatic in a short enough amount of time to where it could deliver just an emotional effect to where you actually felt a connection to these characters and a connection to the story. And you know, there was another element to the film that really didn't make it into the final cut because we shot a lot more than we intended to. And in order to actually make it 15 minutes or under 15 minutes rather, I had to cut this other element out. And that element was a lot more fantastical. It was a little more of a sci-fi twist to what was happening in the story. It basically was that the internet had stopped working in this universe that they were living in. And, so there was this sense of like an almost apocalyptic dystopian future that was about to come, which is still there in the film. It's just that you don't know it as the viewer. So there's this underlying sense of dread, I feel, to the film that is felt by the viewer, but you just don't know exactly why. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I kind of like that more because it created this vibe. It created this feeling of this essence, as opposed to something that was just expository and explained. And in doing that, I feel like I discovered a method that I really was happy with.
Yeah, you definitely feel that in the film itself, and not to give anything away that's in the film, but that presence is certainly ominous, and it feels very large and looming over these characters' lives. Which, as you sort of open up in the first, frames outside of the writing room, is you're in a small town. It feels like, and there's just something bigger. The way that the camera moves and the way that the pushes happen, from the cinematography perspective, it feels like there's something outside of these folks that you're sort of watching something happen. And again, I'm trying not to give any spoilers away, but you hit that on the mark, I think, and I hope the audiences pick up on that as well. But I hope
Thank you.
that you might be able to kind of tell us how this project came together. How did you find out about the film prize all the way down in Florida? And how did you kind of put things together with those resources that you had here?
Well, Anthony Hoff, the actor, the lead actor, along with Robert Alfred, they both live in Shreveport. Hoff and I have been friends for a long time. We met in Los Angeles, probably in around 2014 or so. We met in a yoga class, actually. That's a very LA, you know, thing to do. And we started working on different projects and short films, and we kind of developed our own production team, if you will, while living in Hollywood. You can get really caught up working for the studios, working on set, and you just sort of like lose your own identity. So what we were trying to do was create our own sort of film collective that was working on projects that we were more passionate about, and we did that, and It was a lot of fun. However, we all ended up departing from Los Angeles at one point. Hoff moved to Louisiana. I actually ended up moving to Washington, D.C. Now I'm here in Florida, which, I'm kind of regretting, actually. It's a little bit crazy. It's not my place. I need to get back to the East Coast. I like the cold a little bit. So Hoff calls me up. He tells me, hey, man, there's this film festival in my area. They want us to shoot something in Caddo Parish. It's got to be 15 minutes long. It's got to be this, and that. Right away, I was just like, that sounds really cool. That sounds like something that I'd really like to be a part of. I just I love America. I love telling stories about America. I love the idea of just like showcasing something in this country that I feel hasn't, that I feel has been sort of passed over by Hollywood, or at least forgotten, because a lot of these things were like really prominent in the 70s and 80s. You saw a lot more human stories about Americans and about the things that we experience, about our environment. And I really feel like this movie has that 70s, early 80s vibe as well. Like, I mean, I was really like thinking like Terrence Malick was like one of my big inspirations in creating this film. Funny because I'm wearing like his hat right now, actually. That's total accident. Just happens to be because I was out here in the sun and then it started raining.
Sure it
And
is, Steven. You
and
you embody the filmmakers in your attire and your presence.
they do that, they have this way of sort of inhabiting your soul at some point, which is really cool because that's the thing about filmmaking. It's not like a talent that you're born with. Like I played music for a long time. That was just something that I was born with. I came out of the womb. I don't know. I could sing, I could play guitar, I could play piano, I could play bass, all these things. I could just feel it. Whereas, being a director, you have to learn. Like you really can't just like get up and just start directing. You have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations. So to me, the filmmakers who I look up to are so important in that sense. They are part of who I am, and I have learned so much from them. I think it's funny when I meet a filmmaker who's just like, oh, I'm just going to do my own thing and I'm never going to like, be like anybody else. I'm like, I don't think you can do that. Filmmaking is a very conventional art. It has rules, it has parameters. And when you try to like go outside of those rules too much, you sort of get away from respecting that art. And that's why I think like it's like, you got to ride on the shoulders of giants when you're making film. And then you start to find your own voice when you do that. That's what I've learned, at least.
Absolutely. Well, and hopefully all of that sort of translates out to the audience. And speaking of, the film prize is going to have thousands of people down there watching these films, voting on these films. And I was wondering if you had sort of a message or a hope uh, from yourself to the audience as to what they sort of come away with. Is it a feeling? Is it a viewpoint? Is it slice of life? Thinking, Terrence Malick. What is it that you're sort of hoping the audiences take away from your film?
With this film in particular, I really hope that the audience goes away with a sense of spirituality from this film. That's the main thing. Like, I know that sounds kind of crazy to expect from an audience, but that's how I felt making this film. That's especially when I was in the post-production process. I was just like, I really was feeling a sense of passion in doing it. It wasn't just another labor. It wasn't, and the funny part is that, like the process of making this film, there was a sense of, of planning and strategy. It wasn't just like a work of passion, it was something that we made for the film prize with Shreveport in mind and all of that. But even still, I still like, once I sat down and posted with it, I was just like, I still feel like it's something that can sing. It still feel like it's something that has a soul to it. And I really want the audience to feel that too, the emotions of the characters and not just the characters themselves, but the world that they're in. There is a God in this world. There are angels in this world. There is light and darkness in this world. And that's what I feel like we really achieved in making this film. Is I think it might not make sense to a lot of people when they watch it, much like a movie like Tree of Life, for instance, but it's like, is that the point? Is it supposed to make sense? Maybe it doesn't. I mean, does the Bible make sense? Does religion make sense? And does, Buddhism make sense all the time? It's very subjective at points.
Well, and your
So
actors certainly bring that across. You have two really fantastic leads in the film
yes,
who have such a wonderful uh, chemistry, you know, on screen, and I'm not sure how you were able to achieve that. And I know that it's your skill and their skills combined, but there is something like you're watching true conversation, a true friendship, or friendship may not be the best word, but there's a connection there. The relationship that they have as kind of worker and an employer, and the world that they are inhabiting, and the trial that they're going through in the same space. So kudos to you on that.
thank you, thank you.
I
That
did.
was my I think greatest achievement in making this is really getting more than just what the dialogue is exposing. It actually went deeper than that. It shows like a sense of, like I said, the invisible, I think, the soul. And I'm really happy with how Anthony and Robert made that possible. They did a great job. And so did everyone else who acted in the film.
Absolutely. Well, so as we're sort of wrapping up our time here, I have a question for you about, of course, at some point there are 20 films, and the audiences will vote, and the judges will vote, and a winner will be selected. And on the 23rd of October, a check will be raised into the air with a name written on it. And let's just imagine for a moment that that name is Notes on the War, directed by Stephen Joshua Martinez. What happens? What do you do with the money?
We just start working on the next film. Really, that's the plan. We all agreed with that from the get-go. 50 grand still, when it comes to a film budget, isn't that much, but we're going to put that towards a feature budget, and we're going to start trying to fundraise more money off of that. Hopefully maybe an investor to match that, or people to contribute to a fund for a new movie. We'd actually like to make it in Shreveport again, because I just feel like it's the right thing to do, and I am really inspired by the area at the moment. So I want to just keep riding that wave and keep going with what I think is the appropriate thing to do in regards of my creativity at the moment. So
Fantastic.
that's a
Well,
simple answer.
yeah, well, it's a it's
Start
a,
a
it's a
feature.
good one too, and whatever you work on next, we certainly look forward to seeing it. But until then, audience members who are watching this, you should know that tickets are on sale for Film Prize at prizefest.com. The screenings will be taking place Thursday, October 20th through Saturday, October 22nd, and of course, the award ceremony will be live streamed online Sunday, October 23rd. Stephen, I wondered if you might be able to sort of help us leave this conversation today with the chant that we do at the end of all things prize, with a big Viva la Film Prize on the count of three. Are you ready?
I'm ready. My
All right.
body's ready.
Put the whole thing into it. Here we go. One, two, three.
Viva la Film Prize.
Fantastic. All right. Have a great one, and we'll see you at the festival.
Have a good one, Chris.